What's up, everybody? Awkward Anxious Jennifer here. And if you're new to my channel, I have bipolar disorder, anxiety, and some other struggles. And I like to talk about my life, my struggles, my successes, and input some facts to help educate people and reduce the stigma around mental illness and help some of you feel less alone, if you could see somebody who's going through some of the same things as you. So today I wanted to talk about bipolar disorder and how it's so much more than just highs and lows. So the first thing we should talk about is that there are actually 4 different types of bipolar disorder. With bipolar 1, that's predominated by manic episodes, which are the ups, but it's not necessarily a happy up. Some people have like an angry bipolar. And I'll talk about the symptoms of mania versus depression in a minute. But bipolar 1 is primarily marked by the manic symptoms, and there may or may not be depressive episodes also. Bipolar 2 is marked more predominantly by depressive episodes, with at least one episode of hypomania, which is sort of a less intense version of mania. And then there is also cyclothymic disorder, or cyclothymia, which is sort of where you have mixed episodes of some manic symptoms, some depressive symptoms, and that lasts for at least 2 years. And there's also other specified and unspecified bipolar and related disorders, which is symptoms that don't match any of the other categories. So the main thing with bipolar disorder is that you have manic symptoms and depressive symptoms. So people having a manic episode might feel very high up or elated, have a lot of energy, have increased activity levels, feel jumpy or wired, have trouble sleeping, become more active than usual, talk really fast about a lot of different things, be agitated, irritable, or touchy, feel like their thoughts are going very fast, think they can do a lot of things at once, do risky things like spend a lot of money or have reckless sex. So how those symptoms typically manifest in me is really big ideas. A lot of times it's delusions of grandeur, and those really big ideas sort of vary. Up until a few years ago, when I started really consciously working on my writing, most writing that I did was during manic episodes. I would get an idea for a novel, and oh my goodness, I'm going to be a best-selling author. I'm going to make millions of dollars. I can quit dog grooming. This is my purpose in life. This is what I'm meant to do. And I would just write for hours and hours and hours. All I would do is write, go to work, and eat, and barely even sleep for a week or two, and then I would just completely crash. Manic symptoms are also what led me indirectly into dog grooming, because I thought it was my purpose in life to be a zookeeper. Never mind the fact that science in general and biology in particular were always my worst subjects in school. That didn't matter. I was going to major in biology and be a zookeeper. Or sometimes I'll find myself awake at 2 o'clock in the morning researching, how do I move to Las Vegas, Nevada when I don't even have $30 in my bank account? So those are just some of the ways that it manifests in me. I also tend to go on big spending sprees. The one serious relationship I had, we were on again, off again, and I believe, at least one of those 2 times was thanks to a manic episode, and probably both of them. Because again, these big ideas. Sometimes, the last truly hypomanic episode I can remember was triggered by prednisone, and I got so jittery and up, my skin felt like it was buzzing, like the strings of an electric guitar, and that was not pleasant at all. So it's not necessarily being happy. And, when you're in the middle of it, you don't necessarily know that anything is happening. You just feel like, yes, I have this energy. And if you spend a lot of time depressed, and having energy feels great. So then there are the depressive episodes of bipolar disorder. And while bipolar 1 is characterized more by manic episodes, bipolar 2 is characterized primarily by depressive episodes. And that's one of the big problems with bipolar disorder is suicide. And suicide can happen on either end of the spectrum, but it tends to be more likely on during a depressive episode. So symptoms of a depressive episode could include feeling very sad, down, empty, or hopeless, very little energy, decreased activity levels, sleeping too much or too little, can't enjoy anything, feel worried and empty, have trouble concentrating, forget things a lot, eat too much or too little, feel tired or slowed down, think about death or suicide. Now, as far as I can remember, had my first depressive episode when I was 11 or 12. Of course, I didn't know what it was at the time. I just thought that's what life was. But I remember laying in bed at night, and I had a smoke detector in my room, and I would stare at the red light on the smoke detector and just wish that my house would burn up with me inside and kill me. Now, I didn't have the urge to kill myself, but I certainly didn't want to live. The next major depressive episode that I can remember was spring of my sophomore year in college. And things were going great until they weren't. Just all of a sudden, for no particular reason that I've ever been able to figure out, all of a sudden I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't study. Didn't want to eat. I've always thought my fingernails were gross, so I was chewing on my fingers instead, like, gnawing on my knuckles. And it got to the point where I couldn't think of a single thing that would make me happy. Not one thing that would make me happy. So at that point, I went to the, school clinic or whatever, and was diagnosed with depression, got started on some antidepressants, and antidepressant, and started therapy, and kind of started feeling better. I mean, at least I kind of felt a little bit of joy in my life again, but I certainly wasn't right. But my whole bipolar journey could be a whole other video. So, I tend to feel very hopeless when I get depressed, very guilty, very, I guess, ashamed, like I should have accomplished more with my life. You know, there were so many expectations of me when I was a kid, and I haven't accomplished anything, and I'm just a big loser and whatever. So one of the things with bipolar disorder is that it's commonly not diagnosed for a long time. I saw some statistics somewhere. Now, most of the places that I got my facts from, I'll put the links in the description box below. But this one I just remembered off the top of my head. It takes, on average, about 10 years for somebody with bipolar disorder to be properly diagnosed. And with me, I was about 20 when I had my first depressive episode as an adult, and I was like 27 or 28 when I was finally correctly diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And bipolar disorder can also mimic borderline personality disorder. Manic episodes with psychotic symptoms can look like schizophrenia and whatnot. So people with bipolar disorder also often have another illness like anxiety disorder, substance abuse and eating disorder, ADHD, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, migraines, thyroid disease. So that's, the other part of bipolar disorder is it goes along with a whole lot of other things. I'm pretty sure I have ADD. I guess it would be ADHD without the hyperactivity element. And I think that's very tied to my bipolar disorder. And anyway, like with me, I would only go seek therapy when I was feeling depressed. I didn't go when I was feeling on top of the world. When I thought I was going to be a best-selling author, I wasn't going to go to therapy for that. So that's the primary reason that a lot of people with bipolar disorder aren't properly diagnosed. But one day I had enough, and I went into an appointment with my psychiatrist at the time, and I said, I just feel like I'm doing this. Now, my ups didn't feel that up to me. They were just not depressed. So it'd be depressed, not depressed, depressed, not depressed. And this psychiatrist, one of many that I have disliked over the years, said, well, do you think you might be bipolar? I don't know, you're the doctor. So I agreed to start, to change my medications to ones that would be used to treat bipolar disorder. And then I went and did a whole bunch of research. And from the first book I read, because this was like, Google was not that much of a thing back then. From the first book I read, it was, holy crap, that's me. This explains so much of my life. So that's how I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And the more I learned about bipolar disorder and myself, I've been able to sort of come up with a plan and some tips and techniques to help me pretty well manage it. That could be a whole other video, but I just wanted to talk about how it's more than just happy and sad. Happy, the ups may just look reckless, or, just having more energy, talking faster than usual. Like, I'm a fast talker to begin with, but I really speed up, talk faster and louder when I'm manic. And, depression, sometimes it feels more like apathy than sadness. You just don't care about anything. Anyway, I actually have to get going to a psychiatrist appointment pretty soon, so I better wrap this up. I hope you all found that interesting. I'm sure I'll talk more about bipolar disorder in the future. But yeah, anyway, have a great week. Be kind to each other, be kind to yourselves, and I'll talk to you later.